Ad paid for by Marjan Philhour for Supervisor 2020. Financial disclosures are available at sfethics.org.
Thanks, Marjan. I'm really happy to be here and glad that we have so many people who are interested in participating in this conversation. As Marjan said, I've got 3 kids who have all been through the public schools. My oldest 2 are now in California public universities. My youngest is in high school, and I've lived in San Francisco for 22 years, and 15 of those have been here in the Richmond district, including now I'm in the outer Richmond. And the last 15 years or so, I've been very active as a parent, leader, advocate, and organizer. And one of the things that brought me into the schools and getting active with this topic is, of course, my own kids starting school. And when we were looking for schools, there were so many people who said, oh, but there aren't very many good public schools. There's only 4 or 5 you can possibly choose that are good. And what I found was that it was absolutely not true, that we have dozens and dozens of fantastic schools to choose from way back then, which was many years ago at this point. But also in getting in the advocacy world, the 2008 recession was causing a lot of fiscal crises for our schools. And San Francisco Unified was facing a cut of like $113 million over 2 years back in 2009. And so that's when I stepped up and started to learn a lot about school funding and how that works and how everything connects together locally and at the state level, and realized as I became the legislation chair for the district PTA that I had a voice, as do all of you, and it is actually our responsibility to tell elected officials what we want and what we need them to do, and they're not mind readers. They often have areas of expertise, but it's really up to us as citizens to let them know what we need and what we want to see in our communities. And so that kind of led to a big problem-solving approach to things, which is what I think is so great about this summit and everybody being involved and contributing their voices. And so here we are, it's 2020. We've heard from hundreds of residents in the Richmond, and we heard a few different things. And I want to just also note that the Board of Supervisors doesn't have the school district under their jurisdiction. They don't set the policy for that. However, it is really, really important that we are partnering as a school district with our city agencies, with our Board of Supervisors, with all of our leaders across the city if we're really going to be about serving the whole child and serving our families. And so that's where this all comes in. So what we heard from you all is that this distance learning and remote instruction is really, really hard, that working families are really stressing out and they're struggling, especially those with very young children, as they're balancing jobs and they're balancing child rearing and managing all that at home learning. And that we know that safety and health for you all, the majority said this is number 1, and we want to figure out how we can safely reopen schools, that we know that's better for all of our students to be an in-person instruction. I know our teachers all prefer that, but what's important in that is that our families, our students, our teachers all actually are safe and feel safe as we get through that. We also heard that a lot of you were satisfied with the SFUSD spring response, more or less, but that you want to see more investments in things like our students who have special needs. One thing that you may or may not be aware of is that as we move into hybrid learning, the district has told us that they didn't do well with serving students with special needs in the spring, and that they are going to be prioritizing this group of students who have moderate to severe needs as we move into some sort of a blended in-person and distance learning, but also just in distance learning. They will be focusing on that. We also heard from you that mental health services are really important, and that is consistent with what we're hearing across the city, is that families and everyone wants to see us invest more in social workers having remote support, phone calls, lines, as people are dealing with the struggles we are all going through right now. We also heard from you all that you want more in-person supplemental programs sort of in place of the after-school programs that many of us put our kids in, that our kids really need that socialization and that one-to-one relationship with their peers and kind of that physical engagement. And so as we can figure out how to do that in safe ways, and especially partnering with the city with the community hubs and other ways we're working with Department of Children, Youth and their Families and the Recreation and Park Department, we heard from you all that you want to see more invested resources from the city to address the needs of our students, the academic needs. And so we have to find ways to creatively partner together on that. And then the second big area that we heard from you all on is around student assignment, which is, of course, infamously San Francisco. It's so complicated, it's so hard, and the goals of the current assignment system were to reduce racial isolation and, to support students. And it hasn't met the goals, and the vast majority of you all do not like the current system. And I can tell you, you're not alone. No one likes the system. And so really, I don't know anybody who does. So the good news is that the school district is in the process of redesigning the student enrollment system. And so it is our opportunity now to really weigh in on that. They're starting a very intense process over the next couple of months to redesign. There are some, starting with yesterday, a series of speakers that talk about the history of the assignment system. There's a great new blog series up on the district's website. And you all wanted to see a higher preference on neighborhood school selection. And that is because you want to be able to build community. You want a shorter commute. You want to ease the traffic across the city. You want to make it easier for families to participate in your schools. You want to increase student engagement with others in their neighborhoods. So that's really great. And the main concepts the district is proposing are mostly based in neighborhood, in bigger and smaller zones. So that's good news. And it's an opportunity for us all to stay engaged. And that's what you all shared with us through the surveys. So I'm excited to work on all of this with you.
Thank you, Michelle, for your advocacy and for your expertise. Why don't you announce your website in case people want to learn more about you?
Sure. Well, thank you for that. Yeah, my website is michelleparker.org. And if you want to head over there and learn more or reach out to me, you can also do info@michelleparker.org. And I'm happy to answer any questions or have you get engaged with me and my campaign as well.